Carissa Sims, live event host for Humanities Team, a 22-year-old 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to make conscious living prevalent worldwide by 2040. This will ensure that we create a sustainable and flourishing planet for our kids and future generations. And I have kids, so I'm happy to do that. I'm coming to you live from Lafayette, Colorado. Feel free to put in the chat wherever you're watching, where you're connecting from. I wanted to welcome those streaming live through the HT Facebook page, YouTube channel, and Stream Plus members that are here in the green room with us. Thank you for being members. I wanted to do a special shout out to the Sign Network with John and Summer Raymer at sign.network. Let me share more about Steve Farrell, and then he'll introduce the rest of our esteemed guests. Steve Farrell is a leading voice in conscious evolution and unity consciousness, and the co-founder and worldwide executive director of Humanities Team, one of the world's foremost organizations dedicated to global awakening. A former Silicon Valley entrepreneur whose companies ranked on the Inc. 500, Steve walked away from the American dream to ignite a worldwide movement rooted in oneness, spiritual transformation, and humanity's higher potential. And I'm so proud to be a part of it. Today, he is a visionary thought leader, best-selling author of A New Universal Dream and The Inner Way. This is his latest book. Everyone needs to get it. The Inner Way, Reclaim the Truth of Who You Are and Why You're Here, and a respected member of the Evolutionary Leadership Council. Steve work empowers people and organization to live consciously and lead with purpose in a rapidly changing world. Steve, over to you.
Okay, so thank you, Carissa. Thanks for the generous introduction and a big welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here. We only do these meetings twice a year. We do one in late June, early July, and this one in the holiday season. And so thank you for making time to be here with us today. This is really important work, and we would even say urgent work, actually. And of course, our theme is Hearts for Humanity, raising capital to raise consciousness. This is live, it's unscripted, so we're just sharing from the heart kind of what this work is about and going to extend invitations to you all. Let me start by saying we're going to be 23 years old in June of next year. And we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and the ripples of impact that are out in the world are already, very substantial. I think as one example, we're at the United Nations now, where we're talking about getting on their event calendar a Global Oneness Day, which is we've hosted 16 times ourselves, and there's a whole group of about 20 of us that are knocking on ambassadors' doors there at the UN and making the case that we are all one, we are all one, and let's acknowledge that. And there's a whole different way of living on the earth, as we know. When we call it awaken to that and live consciously. So I want to say about our founding, and of course Neil Donald Walsh, who's participating in this program today, and I and others too. There were a bunch of people that helped us launch Humanities Team back in June of 2003. And our message then was that we are all one, is kind of how we were framing it. That when we live consciously, we live into this underlying unity and oneness. And I want to say that I think was prescient to launch a nonprofit back in 2003 with this notion that there's a root cause, a first domino, that you could go all the way upstream, so to speak, to see what is causing the challenge and dysfunction in today's world. That's really what the launch was about back in 2003. And I would say that was pretty prescient and actually bold as well, because people looked at us very cross-eyed when we launched Humanities Team now. But it wouldn't mean anything without the support of you all and people over the years. There's a lot of key supporters that actually aren't on this call, some that are. But who cares if you've got something prescient that dials in the massive challenge, this colossal misunderstanding, in terms of this notion that we think we're separate from God, from each other, from nature, from life, from the universe. It's a colossal misunderstanding. But what good does it do to launch something that's focusing on that if you don't have like supporters all over the world that are saying that's really important, and I'm going to get behind that. One for myself, but two for kids and future generations, right? So a big shout out and thank you to you all and all the supporters that have been behind us for all these years that have allowed us to create these massive ripples of impact. Now I want to bring in something that is new that I'm going to call it put some real cement under our feet from like 22 years ago. Is all the science that's in now that's affirming that there is an underlying unity and oneness, right? So Albert Einstein, we talk about him a lot because he was probably the most esteemed scientist to walk the planet, and he's the one that said the greatest illusion in the world is the illusion of separation. And then he said that this optical delusion, as he called it, is creating a prison for us, because then we're putting all of our attention only to those closest to us, our family members and things. And he said our job must be to free ourselves from this prison and to embrace all of humankind and the planet. That, by the way, is exactly what we're doing. If you want to like distill it down to just a sentence or two, that's really what our focus is. Now, I want to bring in something else that Einstein shared. People, because he was so esteemed, people asked Einstein back in the day, and this was like back in 1921-ish. They said, Albert, do you believe in God? And he said, yes, I do. I believe in the God of Spinoza, right? So then you go look up Spinoza. Who was Spinoza? So Spinoza was this young Jew philosopher who lived in the early 1600s, who said, and he's one of many, which I'll get to in a second, but he said, life is actually, we have this colossal misunderstanding because all of life, nature, the planet Earth, humankind, the universe, everything is actually an expression of the one, of God's light, right? This is what Spinoza shared. So this is what Einstein was out talking about over 100 years ago. Now, if you've been on our programs, way before Einstein was Plato and Plotinus and Lao Tzu. Okay, so now we're like way back in antiquity. And then Meister Eckhart and Teilhard de Chardin and Bohm and Schrödinger. And so now most people refer to what they share as research, or science. But actually, if you look at all of these, and one of the things we're circulating inside Humanities Team is all the leaders. I just read you like 8 or 9 names. But if you go back to antiquity and you look at the different streams of philosophers, science, the different religions, atheists, etc., there's a long list. We're into the hundreds of people who have actually given their whole life to this notion that we're actually one, right? That there's a colossal misunderstanding when we walk around thinking that there's no underlying unity and oneness, that we're not deeply affecting each other. So the evidence is in, and using AI, you could yourself like pull a list of all these leaders back through time who have made this their life work. Now, so why do we spend so much time talking about this underlying unity and oneness? It's because of the implications of it, or the impact. And I was referencing ripples of impact a little earlier. It's the implications of it. And I would start with actually to us, all of us on the screen here, in your own lives. You're here because you're living consciously, right? So this notion of living in flow, this notion of living, we talk about a planet that is sustainable and flourishing. Carissa was referencing that. But our own life becomes flourishing, right? I mean, it's just a completely different life. And my story in Silicon Valley, and was the entrepreneur, doing the entrepreneur thing. And then I realized this isn't really what it's about. I didn't find it here. where I found it was in living consciously. And these books that I wrote, New Universal Dream and this recent one, that's The Inner Way, Reclaiming the Truth of Who You Are, they're actually about just this whole process of how we live into this oneness, this underlying unity and oneness, creating this flourishing in our lives, living in flow states and stuff. So it starts there with how our lives are so much richer, but then it extends out to what Carissa was covering, which is it's not just an individual thing, it's a collective thing. As we walk through that door, just like what Einstein said, we have to free ourselves from this prison and embrace the whole of humanity and the planet and humankind. That's what we naturally do as we call it walk through that door, as we have our awakening experience, as we live consciously, as our hearts open, we become in service. We can't do everything, but we're all, through our own daily practice and our own rituals, we're led to what we can do, what is ours to do. We're led to that, guided to that. And then when all of us do something, then we create this whole new way of living on the earth. And we're calling that, you all may have seen our impact report from prior years. We're working on our new one now. The theme of the new one is that we are the turning point. We are the turning point. So, and of course, what we're talking about there is this turning point of just finally, after eons of time and hundreds of leaders that have been born into the world, scientists, philosophers, religionists, saying, there's a colossal misunderstanding. We're not separate from everything. And of course, when we think we're separate from everything, then we start using resources inappropriately on the earth, and we don't pay attention to climate science, and we don't take care of each other. All the things that when we look out today's window, we see, right? So the implications are massive, right? And one of the downloads we got, I'll call it, is this whole 2040 thing, that in 15 years, we can actually create a tipping point. So when we say we are the turning point, that in 15 years, 800 million people, because the tipping point is 8 to 10%, right? So 800 million people in 15 years that are living consciously. So that's what the Humanities team as a nonprofit is about, and our streaming platform and Global Oneness Day. That's what this fundraiser is about when we say Hearts for Humanity, raising capital to raise consciousness. It's to keep putting big, big ripples out into the pond of life here, creating an awakening experience, creating conscious living. So now, of course, you're here, and so what is the invitation, that we're extending to you? So one is, it's living it, which I know you're already doing. You wouldn't be here if you weren't already living consciously. But just stretching into the fullness of it, in your own fullness of it, in your own daily practice, in your own rituals, you're guided to, like, what is your invitation to stretch into in your home, at work, out in the world, where it's not just your vocal cords, it's your expression of light, that you are an expression of God's light, right? That's what, or our scientist friends like to use the term universe and cosmos, and okay, you're sovereign to the universe and cosmos as well. That's also true. Science and spirituality have formed this perfect bridge. But so the first invitation is for all of us, in Humanities team and you, to really live and stretch into the fullness of it, because this is where, we're blessed and we bless others, and we live in flow states, and we have this flourishing life and all of these things. So that's invitation number one. And invitation number two is, a lot of you, most of you maybe, over the holidays, philanthropy is something important for you, where you look at these nonprofits that are important to you, and if you resonate with our mission, to just invite you to contribute, to financially contribute to Humanities team in all the ways that you can. And I want to share that all of us in Humanities team are also contributing massively ourselves. Over half our organization is not paid at all. And the other half that is lightly paid. And this year, we created ourselves a $100,000 match. That $100,000 is in Humanities team now as a match, matching you dollar for dollar. So that's in addition to just all the ways that we're contributing. So what we're doing then is inviting you to join with us and help this nonprofit that's devoted to creating a whole new way of living on the planet achieve bigger and bigger ripples of impact and to scale and to achieve this 2040 tipping point. So those are our two big invitations. I thank you for being here. I don't want to go any longer because we have some really beautiful guests here that are going to speak. Neil Donald Walsh is going to go next. So let me introduce Neil for you. Neil Donald Walsh is the internationally best-selling author of the Conversations with God book series, which has touched the lives of millions and been translated into dozens of languages. His work invites us into a direct personal relationship with the divine and encourages us to live with deeper purpose, compassion, and connection. Neil is also the co-founder of Humanities Team and a passionate advocate for conscious living, spiritual awakening, and global transformation. And we're now going to go to Neil created this little talk for us that we're going to go to right now.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to talk today about the most important subject. I think it's, in fact, the most critical topic we could discuss at this point in time in humanity's history. It's about your membership on Humanities Team. You know, I had a dream years ago about how separate and alienated I felt our world is becoming. You know, I mean, I saw people everywhere forming groups all over the place, conservatives and liberals, the religious and the non-religious, the rich and the poor, the gays and the straights, the colors and the whites, the citizens of one nation or another. And it wasn't just that they were forming different groups, but that there was alienation that was arising between these groups. They didn't know how to disagree agreeably, that they felt that their differences had to create divisions. And I had this dream about that, and I remember the dream vividly, and in the dream I thought, but why do we have to form all these separate individual teams? I mean, can't we just all be on one team? I mean, who will be on Humanities Team? And I woke up literally out of a sound sleep. I woke up and I thought, oh my gosh, that's it. We need to create Humanities Team. And I didn't know how I would do that, but I invited a few people to my home to talk about it. And thank goodness a man named Steve Farrell showed up, an extraordinary human being who has the ability to turn ideas into reality. And Steve Farrell thought Humanities Team was a wonderful idea. He grabbed a hold of it and he moved with it and he put his energy behind it. And I must say some financial support as well, considerable financial support. And he created, along with a team of people that joined him, a wonderful organization that has people all over the world in over 60 or 70 countries around the world. So the question still remains, however, will you be on Humanities Team? And if you are on Humanities Team, are you supporting it at the level that you really feel that you can? There's a lot going on in our world still, and much of it doesn't look that pretty. These days, it feels like one sad or tragic event after another. So what do you think could be the single most important aspect, the single aspect of our life needing our attention right now? Anybody have a guess? Changing humanity's future. I mean, hello. But how is that done? Can humanity actually change its own future? It can, by joining together as one team, Humanities Team, to pay attention to and to speed up our evolution of the self and evolution of the species. The dictionary defines this as the process by which living organisms develop and diversify, especially from simple to complex forms. Now let's take a look at how we define those living organisms that we call human beings, because how you hear and receive everything I'm going to say is going to be conditioned on how we define ourselves as humans. That goes for all of us collectively and each of us individually, in my observation. We have a decision to make. It could be the biggest decision we're going to make in our lives, and the biggest decision humanity is going to make as a species. Making that decision is a big part of our evolution. So it's becoming critical that humans make that decision now. The decision? We have to decide who we are. I talk about this a lot these days because I think it's something that can't be emphasized enough. We have to decide who we are. I mean that literally, not as a figure of speech, not as a clever turn of phrase. I mean literally. We have to decide in actual, factual terms who we are as creatures in the universe. We have two choices as I see it about that. We can conceive of ourselves as chemical creatures, the outcome of a biological process engaged in by two preceding chemical creatures that we call your mother and your father. Or we can conceive of ourselves as spiritual creatures. Ah, what an interesting idea. Spiritual creatures inhabiting a biological form that we call our body. Now, if you see yourself as a chemical creature, you would see yourself as having no more connection to the larger process of life than any other chemical or biological life forms. Like all the others, fish in the sea, birds in the air, you would be impacted by life, but could have very little impact on life. You certainly couldn't create events except in the remote, most indirect sense. You could create more life. I mean, all chemical creatures carry the biological capacity to recreate more of themselves, but you'd have a very limited ability to create to produce how life shows up in any given moment. Further, if you see yourself as a chemical creature, you would also see yourself as having a limited ability to constantly create a uniformed, controlled, and intentional response to the events and circumstances that are being created in life. You would see yourself as a creature of habit or instinct, with only the resources of your biology. You would see yourself as having more resources than a turtle. Perhaps your biology has gifted you with more, and so you would, no doubt, have more resources. You would have more resources than a butterfly because your biology has gifted you with more. Yet, those examples are all you would see yourself as having. I mean, in terms of resources, you would see yourself as having to deal with life day to day, pretty much as it comes, with perhaps a tiny bit of what seems like control based on advanced planning, but not much more. But if, on the other hand, you conceive of yourself not as a chemical creature, but as a spiritual creature, you could see yourself as having powers and abilities far beyond those of a simple biological life form, powers that transcend basic physicality and its laws. You would understand that these powers and abilities give you collaborative control over the exterior events of your individual and collective life. Also, as a spiritual being, you would know that you are here, on the earth, I mean, for a spiritual reason. And that would not be an unimportant conclusion to come to. It would be, in fact, the most significant awareness and the most meaningful aspect of your life. The spiritual reason you are on earth, in my understanding, is for a highly focused purpose that has nothing to do with, your possessions, your achievement, your place in society, or any of the exterior conditions or circumstances of your life. If you conceive of yourself not as a chemical creature, but as a spiritual being, you would know that your purpose has to do with your interior life. and that how well you do in achieving that purpose is what will affect your exterior life. The interior and the exterior will then be integrated, creating a holistic approach to life and producing a whole person experience that merges the physical with the metaphysical. This, in turn, will have an effect not only on your evolution, but on the evolution of the entire species. Because the interior life of every human adds to the exterior life of all humans and ultimately helps to create it. So you know what, my friends? The decision you make with regard to what kind of sentient being you are, a chemical creature or a spiritual creature, is how you participate in the evolution of your species. It is therefore important that your decision about who you are be a conscious decision. Now, after you make that decision, you have two more decisions to make. What's the nature or chief characteristic of the sentient being you are, and what difference does it make? You could decide that you are a separate entity, one of approximately 8 billion such biological entities on the planet. Or you can decide that you are a singular expression of a unified entity, of which there is only one on this planet, and one in existence anywhere. It's not a small decision. My answer to those questions: I am an individuation of divinity, an expression of God, a singularization of the singularity. There's no separation between me and God, nor is there any difference except to proportion. Simply put, God and I are one, even as the wave and the ocean are one. So this is my response to the first choice I get to make. The second choice, what difference does it make? That's what you'll be answering in the upcoming moments of your life. In the days, in the weeks, in the months ahead, that's what you'll be deciding. That is what your soul has brought you to this program right now to answer. You are already members of humanity's team because you're a human being. And you have an important role to play in changing humanity's future. I hope you will look at all the activities of the global organization called Humanity's Team and decide where you can fit in, what you can offer, how you can contribute. Because it's now or never time in our world. I'm not exaggerating. Look around. But you can be part of activating humanity's dream by activating the mission of humanity's team. Please do so. Choose to do so. Support the activities of an organization that has members in nations around the world, and support the mission of humanity's team, which is to share with each of us that we are all one. And that when we act that way, we can create humanity's dream. Thanks for saying yes.
Okay, that was beautiful. So big thank you to Neil. And also, just so you know, we referenced our country coordinators. There are 69 country coordinators around the world. They're all volunteer. A number of them are here right now in this program. So just again, isn't that huge? 69 leaders showing up in countries all over the world that want to be the face and the support mechanism for humanity's team in their countries. So thank you, Neil. And we're now going to go to Suzanne Giesman. So I'm going to read a quick introduction for her. Suzanne Giesman is a former U.S. Navy commander who served as a senior aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff before a profound spiritual awakening redirected her life's path. Today, she is a highly respected evidential medium, teacher, and author whose work bridges the realms of spirit and daily living with clarity, compassion, and integrity. Suzanne is known for delivering remarkably precise and healing messages from loved ones across the veil, offering hope, comfort, and validation to countless people around the world. And here we go to Suzanne Giesemann.
Hello, and thanks for that introduction. Thanks to Steve and the entire leadership at Humanity's Team. And thanks to you who are also part of Humanity's Team. We can't not be part as human beings, but our goal together here is to help all of us come to the state where we know that we are also, first and foremost, souls in these human roles. The goal of Humanity's Team and my personal goal in my teaching and my sharing in my life is to live consciously. What does that mean? It doesn't just mean making sure you don't trip over your own feet. It means to be aware that if we pause and breathe step by step, if we pay attention and listen within, we can actually be guided with every step and keep from tripping over our feet. I marched in step for 20 years of my life as a naval officer. I played by all the rules. I was very much by the book, using mostly my left brain. But after the death of my stepdaughter, I came to have a knowing from within that there's something more. And I went seeking it. And I found my stepdaughter Susan across the veil. I found other people's loved ones. I found that any of us can turn on that right brain and come into a balanced whole brain state and truly live conscious of the fact that we are being breathed by a source so much bigger than ourselves. And so today I help people connect to their own loved ones. I do that through personal readings. I teach people how to use methods that increase our sense of connection, our sense of peace, our awareness of who we are as souls here temporarily for a reason. So what is that reason? So many people want to know, what's my purpose? Well, every soul shares the same purpose. It's to give as good as we get. What do I mean by that? When I say that we're being breathed by our source, that is this flow of life force that keeps us alive in these bodies. That's why they call it the life force. It is consciousness. It is energy in motion, and we are receiving it all the time. But what a gift that is. By grace, we're here alive. And I say that we receive grace and then with gratitude, give back to the world what we're receiving moment by moment. So we get from source and we give our love to the world, to each other, to ourselves. So our purpose is to, as I said, give that love as good as we get it. You come in here as a soul, aware of who you are, aware that our total connection is that love that fuels us. And the more we give it, the more love we feel, the more love we receive. So how does that help us in our day-to-day lives? How does that help us in our day-to-day struggles? When we realize that this love is flowing through us and all that is and connects all that is, then we pause between those steps and we tune in and we say, what is my next best step? And you're asking a source higher than you. You know it loves you. You know that it wants the best for you. And when you ask and you act on that, then your life flows. But that doesn't mean life is always painless and wonderful. Our souls came here knowing we would face challenges and that we can absolutely grow. I was going to say potentially grow. No, absolutely grow from overcoming those challenges through radiating more love and through service to ourselves and others, because we never act in isolation. I recently went through a 2-month period of excruciating back pain from a herniated disc, and I used that time to ask my guides and source, why is this happening? What can I learn from it? How do I overcome it? And there was a whole mind, body, spirit connection. that allowed me to heal from it much faster, according to the books, than if I had simply followed the physical side of that challenge. So as a result of going within, of knowing that there are deeper causes to our challenges, I've gone to the next level in my soul's journey. People have said to me, gosh, Suzanne, you seem so much softer lately. I don't know whether to be insulted or not, but I know that military training and the commander in me has always been part of who I am, and it always will be, because it helps me be organized and get things done. And yet, at the same time, to bring in more of that soul's radiance and for people to feel that, that's a beautiful thing. It acknowledges that my journey is ongoing, ever onward, ever upward. And that's what we all want for all of you. We at Humanities Team want you to find this peace and that love. And what I've learned from that term softness, you're softer these days, Suzanne, is that I realized that many of my back issues came from a lifetime of guarding myself. Almost everyone is traumatized as a child in some way. We come in as souls and just want to love each other. We just want to just shower our love on everyone. And then we do things and our parents or those around us say, don't act like that. Don't do that. And we're corrected and we learn to withdraw our love. And we learn to be constricted, and the life force doesn't flow as freely as it can. As we come to know that we're souls through practices that I teach, through practices you can learn in many of the courses on Humanities Stream, we realize we are always safe at the soul level and that we don't need to guard our emotions. When we feel our emotions, when we observe our thoughts from a higher perspective, now that life force can flow more freely, and the result is a softness that is far different than weakness. In my work as a medium, the direct and immediate and noticeable results of being less guarded and being softer is a deeper connection with those across the veil. I'm now channeling those spirits I bring through and letting them speak straight through me. The readings I've done lately are so exciting because my clients are saying, oh my gosh, that's their exact words, or that's what they wrote in a note before they passed. It's phenomenal. And all because when we're willing to look within, find any disharmonious spots, and release that, now that receiving can come in greater abundance and our giving can be more abundant as well. So we're here to love and to serve, to shine and radiate Source's love and light as much as possible. And to that end, our soul knows that there's no limit to how much we can grow. That's why I'm such a huge supporter of Humanities Team, because they're all about helping us continue to grow. I talk about the 3 E's of spiritual growth, of living the awakened way, and that's educate yourself, experience higher consciousness for yourself, and engage higher consciousness. You see behind me a stack of the books that I've written in my service to humanity. You might notice that my bookcase is empty. That's because in my husband's and our ongoing adventures, we're moving. Again, military people have it in their blood to just move every few years. And so I've packed up all my books. I've been giving a lot of my books away because I no longer need them. But my friends said, have you really read all these books? And I said, yes, every one. I have just shelves and shelves of books. And books to me are absolute treasures. We can also learn from our guides, but to me, books are like a shortcut and they carry the energy of the author. So continue learning in whatever way works for you, be that reading, be it watching videos, or one of my favorite methods is with online courses. I believe I don't know, I'll have to ask Steve what we're up to, how many courses I have with Humanities Stream. But the beauty of Humanities Stream is you pay one price, which is often the cost of one course with other online platforms, and you get a whole year of access to every one of their master classes and courses. It's truly the best deal I have found online with quality courses to help you raise your consciousness, to help you make a connection with your guides and angels and loved ones across the veil, to help you release trauma that's within you so that that life force flows more freely. But again, there is a fee for Humanities Stream, but it's so low. And what's beautiful about Humanities Team is when you pay for a membership, they gift a membership to somebody who can't afford it. It's a nonprofit organization, as you're hearing in this program today. And that means they rely on all of us to survive and continue giving. So I hope that by attending today, you'll really understand how important Humanities Team's mission is, how important your mission is, and that one way we can give as good as we get is by giving financially. But there are many other ways, which we've talked about today, through the heart, through service, through loving each other. So I hope you'll choose every one of those methods of giving today. And I hope that you will use some of the methods that I teach in Humanities Stream, including my Sip of the Divine and the Bless Me method, which Steve Farrell always talks about how that's helped him connect with his own family members, but most especially to find peace, to soften, and not guard those beautiful emotions that you as a soul came here to feel fully. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and God bless you.
Okay, that was beautiful. So big thank you to Suzanne, and she, you know, if you go to her YouTube page, there actually are millions of people that are following her, and you can see why. She's extraordinary. I think she has 7 master classes now on Humanities Stream Plus, so which is our global community and our global streaming platform. It's now the largest global streaming platform for consciousness raising, master classes, and education. So and it's right now it's $299 a year or $29.99 a month. So we've dropped that price down repeatedly to get it down that low, so people all over the world can avail themselves of it. And as she mentions, we have a 1-for-1 program. So when you subscribe to it and go through any or all of her 7 master classes, you gift a free subscription to somebody often outside of the United States who's conscious but can't afford that. So also Neil has 4 of his own master classes on the Humanities Stream Plus platform. There actually are hundreds of programs on Humanities Stream Plus. So we just put a link in the window. If you're not a member of that community, boy, invite you to become one. We all like watching a movie here and there on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something. But wow, you go through even one of these master classes, much less 2 or 3, and it's extraordinary. I'm sure you get that even from their short talks here today. Okay, I'm going to introduce our next leader that's coming on. It's Yosi Amram. And Yosi Amram is a pioneering psychologist, executive coach, and researcher whose work has helped shape the modern understanding of spiritual intelligence and conscious leadership. Yosi's work bridges rigorous science and timeless wisdom to support individuals and organizations in embodying compassion, authenticity, and purpose-driven impact. Through his teaching, writing, and coaching, Yosi empowers people to access deeper meaning, expand their awareness, and lead from a place of wholeness and connection. And I'll add, Yosi, like myself, he IPO'd 2 companies, brought 2 companies public in the tech sector before walking away from being an entrepreneur to do this work now, where he's this big leadership coach, author, et cetera, and dear friend of Humanities Team. Welcome, Yosi. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Good to be with you. Good to be with this distinguished group of speakers and authors and thought leaders. And so much has been said. I'm not sure what I can add. I will just say a few things. One is, as you highlighted, I like to bridge the heart and the head and sort of the mystical and the scientific. So And so, yeah, my work has been around defining and measuring spiritual intelligence and showing how it contributes to so many good things in our life. And spiritual intelligence really leverages some of the themes we've all been talking about, which is understanding our interconnectedness, our interdependence, our oneness, as well as understanding and empowering us individually and giving us a sense of purpose and understanding how we are each a cell in a larger cosmic organism, and our well-being as that cell depends on the well-being of the entire organism that we are a part of, and naturally want to do our unique role and function to support that, just like every cell, every organ in our body has a unique role and function, even if it comes from the same DNA or stem cells. So it's kind of like and what I love about Humanities Team is that, as was talked about, it's very affordable and it has such a, deep library of classes and transformational tools to help us realize this vision and actualize it, not just as a theoretical framework, and which is, as Steve, you've eloquently cited all these thought leaders from Einstein to Spinoza to whatever, but really how to make that a lived reality, which you and in your books and Neil's books so beautifully articulate. Because for me, it's all about the embodiment of daily life. But going back to this notion of research, and what we're talking about here is asking people to contribute. And I'll just cite one research study that highlights the benefits of contributing. So there was an experiment done with people were randomly picked for receiving a $20 gift or something like that, and half the people got it and half didn't. And of course, the people who won the lottery, so to speak, got a momentary happiness. And then they were randomly divided into those that were told, okay, you got this winning, go spend it on a gift or a lunch or whatever for yourself. And then the other half were told, go use it to help somebody else. And then at the end of the day, they asked people and measured their well-being. And the people who won the lottery, so to speak, and the money, and then spent it on themselves, had a momentary uplifting in their mood. You can call it a dopamine hit. But the people who actually were invited to go and share that with others had a sustained level of well-being that stayed with them through the day. So, point being is that when we share our gifts, when we share our blessings, and whatever level we can, we have an increased sense of well-being. It supports our belonging, gives us our sense of connectedness and interdependence, which is so important in this day and age where there's so much of a loneliness epidemic and anxiety and all these depression, and all comes from a sense of isolation, despite all the social media and AI that people are turning to for connection, which is not a real connection. It helps some, but it's no substitute for real connection and real contribution that remembers us into our nature, into our divine nature, and remember. So we become members into this web of life, this chain of being. So that's why I have been excited and supportive of Humanities Team, both in whatever I can do in putting on a masterclass on spiritual intelligence, but also financially, because I see it as really high dividend, very high ROI. And I think, Steve, what you and the team here, Carissa and Ross, all have accomplished with the so little that you have, reaching millions of people, is just incredible. And it's such a high leverage. And, you've put your your money where your mouth is, and working for minimum or no compensation. And because of that, you have gotten very far on very little. And I can't think of another organization that has that kind of leverage. So that's why I'm here, and want to continue to support Humanity's Team in whatever way we can. And as we said, we can't help but be members of Humanity's Team. So it's a nice play on words, and it's a great dream, as Neil said, be on the team and live the dream. So I like the sound of that.
That's good. Hey, Yosi, that was extraordinary. Thank you. Yeah, and Yosi is a dear friend and partner of Humanity's Team, and with an extraordinary career. My God, unreal what Yosi has done out in professionally, and then he's come in and assisted us in Galileo Moment and these different downloads that we got around how we were going to frame our work. Yosi's actually been quite instrumental in helping to frame that with us. So now he does have his own program on Humanity Stream Plus. You saw it in the chat, this Awakening Spirit Intelligence, which is an extraordinary program. He also has a book out that's a best-selling book on Amazon that you could check out. On Humanity Stream Plus, again, it's really first and foremost, it's a community, but it's also this streaming platform, and it's also where we're putting these summits. We just did a summit on AI with the soul. We call it Soulful Productivity, and we train people in AI. But importantly, and the reason we created this summit was to say AI and technology is not the center of our world, right? You know, we are actually, each of us, a living expression of God's light or God's divinity, right? And that's with our daily practices and our rituals, that's the center of our life. And yeah, let's use AI and technology in ways that create productivity. I mention this because we just put our 2-day summit into Humanity Stream Plus. And then a few weeks before that, we put the Global Oneness Summit, which was a 3-day summit, into Humanity Stream Plus. And so you know, if you saw our newsletter, here in about a month, a little longer than that, we're doing a new summit called Reclaim Your Identity, Energy, and Power, the Planetary Citizen Summit. So, and that'll go into Humanity Stream Plus with Neil's programs, Yosi's, Suzanne's, Michael Beckwith's, Greg Braden's, Nassim Hiraman's, on and on. So it's really a fantastic community, and invite you to check it out. There are links here in the chat. I want to introduce now Jan Hatcher, who is, and these leaders are all on our board of advisors. Yosi is, so is Jan Hatcher. Jan Hatcher is a spiritual educator, counselor, and nonprofit leader with over 3 decades of experience in transformation and conscious living. She holds graduate degrees from Harvard and Virginia Commonwealth Universities, and currently teaches religious studies at VCU, specializing in human spirituality and world religions. A lifelong seeker and nature lover, she is devoted to reflecting divine love and helping others remember their interconnectedness with all of life. And a big welcome to you, Jan.
Thank you. I am really honored to be here again, and to be reminded again of what a sacred place we hold as just being human, being a part of this human team. Humanity's Team, I love how Neil Donald Walsh framed that we can't be otherwise. It is what we are. And Steve, the title of your book, I love, Reclaiming the Truth of Who We Are. And I'd love to start with, it reminded me of a story about myself. When I was a young girl, I would lie in bed at night and just ponder why people weren't nicer to each other, and felt this longing in my heart for my life to be in service to kindness and love and bringing about world peace. And then, of course, I entered into that phase that Suzanne Giesemann referred to, with we get conditioned out of our natural way of being, of who we really are. And so, yes, I was conditioned to think in terms of myself and as a separate being from others. And, that leads to a sense of competition, isolation, even, and loneliness on our planet. So I feel like my life's journey has been about finding my way back to who I really am. Rilke, in one of his books, says that our main task in life is to give birth to ourself. But I think that's just language to say another way what you've said, Steve, in your recent book, reclaiming the truth of who we are. And so I am now in service to humanity through my teaching, through teaching religious literacy. And that is really in service to helping people see through the surface differences to that common thread that connects us at a deeper level as human beings. My teaching and research, is focused on world religions and the evolution of spiritual mythology throughout the evolution of humankind. And one of the things I love to do is look for the common threads. And I would say that the most exciting and most empowering common thread that I see is this idea of our spiritual oneness. And we see it in all the major world religions, the body of Christ, the yin yang within Taoism, Indra's net of jewels in Hinduism, Tawhid, that divine unity of Islam. Looking at Buddhism. Buddhism, the Buddha set out to look at why we suffer so much as human beings. And what he found in deep meditation is we suffer because we have forgotten our interconnectedness. We have shifted our identity to the finite self, which says that we are separate, that we look to serve our self-interest. And so much research has been replicated that says that really doesn't bring about happiness. It's the conditioning of the material world that teaches us that, advancing self-interest and accumulating more material goods will make us happy when the research is really clear that it does not. And to Yosi's comment or his sharing of the research of the $20 bill, I mean, that research is consistent in its findings in lots of different forms in cultures around the world. It is that interconnectedness with others, the realization that that is there. It's not something we have to create. That is our true nature. That is where we find the real satisfaction and joy in life, that the spiritual teachers say is our birthright. There's a wonderful documentary that was created by Tom Shadyac. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him as a director, and he had done a lot of comedies and won a lot of awards in Hollywood for his films with Jim Carrey. And after an accident where he suffered a severe concussion, he really wanted to, when he was facing potential death, he thought, what is it I want to leave the world? And so he went around the world talking to thought leaders and looking at what is wrong with the world and what can we do about it. And he was looking for looking at all the problems. What is the main problem behind poverty, injustice, the devastation of the natural world, violence and war? What is the problem behind those things? And what he found was this illusion of separateness. Um, and then, he started looking at all the evidence for this realization of our interconnectedness, the oneness with the divine, not just with each other, but the oneness with that sacred reality that is the source of all things. Democracy in animals. There have been studies that indicate that animals really work as a collective, and there is a tendency toward democracy. In the plant kingdom, there is a cooperative nature, the fungal networks under the soil that transmit communication between trees to warn about invaders. Nature works as a cooperative. And in The Descent of Man, Darwin attributes our survival as a species to our ability to cooperate. And Darwin, got popularized for talking about survival of the fittest, but he only said that 2 times in his book, Descent of Man. He emphasized love and cooperation 95 times. That part did not get as popularized, but that is part of the emerging story that's happening now as the global consciousness is expanding around this idea of and the awareness of our divine oneness, not just as a species, but as part of the divine whole. Um, You've referenced Einstein, that, he in quantum physics was looking at, separating particles, and what they found was that there was an interconnectedness among particles that could not be explained with their current theories. So, science, Lynn Taggart has talked about how science is now catching up with our great spiritual teachings of millennia. Um, and Yosi also mentioned the sense of embodiment, and we talk about the inner work that we do, and then how we engage in the world, how we show up differently. We are in a position at this point in time, as Neil Donald Walsh mentioned, now is our time, and the need is urgent, but there's opportunity. There's opportunity for us right now to really change the course of the future of our world. We are one with the divine. The divine force flows through us. We are a part of it. And we, every day, in the decisions that we make, are co creating the future. Howard Zinn said, "We are not neutral on a moving train." Every day, with the choices we make, we are co creating the future world. So I invite you all to think about what is the world in which you want to live, because every day you have the power to co-create that world that not only you want to live in, but that you want to leave for future generations. Um, the Dalai Lama emphasized the power of one, and uses references to how the world has changed, how it's changed through the power of one, the power that each of us hold. And just in today's program, it has occurred to me to really emphasize the power of oneness, this oneness that we're talking about, the power of oneness, what we can do when we all commit to this vision for our future world. Humanity's team as a nonprofit is poised to play is already playing an integral role in this work in the world, is having great impact, and with greater resources can do even more. There's a song lyric that says, "You can blow out a candle, but you can't blow out a flame. You can't blow out a fire." So as we grow in our momentum in this work in the world, it will be unstoppable. So we invite you to be a part of it. I have worked with a lot of nonprofits in my life, and this by far is the most economically run nonprofit I've worked with. Few resources are used for operating cost or overhead. The resources really are put toward impact in the world. So every gift that you make really makes a difference toward this vision that we all share, that we are a part of as humanity's team, and that we are in service to as we move forward. So thank you all for being here today. I appreciate the time to be a part of it, and just wish blessings on all of you.
Okay, Jen, thank you. Wow, that was stunning. Thanks so much for coming in. I met Jan first just as a friend coming where she was coming through town, and boy, am I glad I got to know Jan because she is a real bright light, as you can see. So thank you. That was a really beautiful message, Jan. Thank you. You'll notice in the chat people commenting here too. Okay, it's now my pleasure to introduce Debra Poneman. She is a renowned speaker, transformational teacher, and founder of the legendary Yes to Success seminars for over 4 decades. She's empowered people around the world to awaken to their true potential using spiritual principles, timeless wisdom, and practical tools for success Debra is celebrated for her authenticity, radiant energy, and unwavering commitment to helping others live lives of purpose, joy, and abundance. Boy, get ready. Debra, she started this work in the 80s. Okay, there's a whole story she probably won't be able to get to here, but people like Deepak Chopra, they learned from Debra. Okay, that's how big Debra is. Debra, welcome.
I am so happy to be here and honored. And you know, I am a huge supporter of everything Humanities Team and those nice things when you said about authenticity and this and that. You said that. I didn't put that on my own bio, but I always love being here because there's so much love in Humanities Team. And Carissa and Kennedy, and of course Dee and you and Garth, just everybody, Neil. It's just like a big family. I just want to hug you all across the screen. And I almost didn't make it because I was supposed to be in Mexico and I stayed on the West Coast, but I still had it at 11 o'clock Seattle time on my calendar. So I'm getting ready to come on at 11. So everyone knows this is live and not recorded. Anyway, I'm so happy that I get the opportunity to share my thoughts because one of the reasons I love these particular gatherings is that when the world is so divided, it's a beautiful contrast to be with a group of awakened people, people who believe the very lofty yet achievable vision of Humanities Team, which is to make conscious living pervasive around the world by 2040 and our time on earth until 2040 ever more meaningful. And Steve has said many times, humanity is in a race against time, and many people feel that the challenges are insurmountable. But at Humanities Team, as Jan just said, we don't think so. We think the reality is that there are solutions. The first time I was invited to be part of Humanities Team was at a panelist for Global Oneness, and it was about 13 years ago. And I remember thinking, this must be an amazing group of people to be working so hard to put an event together with the intent to create global oneness. You guys were pioneers in this concept of everybody coming together. And when I discovered that the group who wanted to create global oneness was called Humanities Team, I was even more excited and curious about who these folks were, because what is a team? It's a group of people who come together with a common purpose. And here was a team formed not to win a game just so their, 8 team members could get a trophy, but this was the team that was coming together to win on behalf of all humanity. It was Humanities Team. And when this team wins, everyone wins, because it's about raising the vibration of the entire planet. The mission of Humanities Team isn't about changing the future for some people. No, if this team wins, it would change the future for everyone on Earth. So after that very first invitation 13 years ago, I became an active team member, first by being a speaker and then a host during Global Oneness. And to this day, I'm a host for Global Oneness every single year. I just look forward to it. And I created a masterclass for Humanities Team with the wonderful Christy Whitman called A New Kind of Power, which is really good if I do say so myself. And then I became part of the Humanities Team Advisory Board, which is a great honor. And you know what? The vision that I saw that this team had 13 years ago just continues to get stronger, and the commitment gets greater. And I'm truly happy to be on a team that's taking action. No one on this team wastes time. Jan also said this. This is a clean and lean machine. And people put their attention not on what's wrong with the world. These people don't waste their time sitting around talking about the world's problems, because we know, as the great teacher Maharishi Mahesh Yogi said, that which we put our attention on will grow in our lives. So if we put our attention on what's wrong and constantly talk about that, we're adding fuel to that fire. And there are a lot of fires on the planet, both literal and figurative at this time. But the members of Humanity's team, they don't sit around wasting their precious breath talking about how the world is, going to hell in a handbasket. No, their conversation is about what can we do? How can we serve? How can we contribute to a world that works for everyone? And then offering powerful knowledge and programs, ways to awaken each person's own individual consciousness. And as more and more people become awake, one day there will be enough awake people that there will be a state change on the planet. Like when water starts to boil, a moment will happen when all of humanity spontaneously wakes up and recognizes that we are all one. We are a one world family. And I know Neil, in his Conversations with God books that he began writing in the 1990s, God through Neil makes it clear that if we want to create a world where we come together as one, a world bathed in love, if we want to change the future, we have to take action. We can't just wish for it. And that's why we're here today, because we have it on good or God authority that the time to take action is now, not tomorrow, or not my least favorite day, someday. Now is the time we need to act, or the tomorrow we envision might not happen. So global oneness is not a pipe dream. Science is even on our side, just by the way. Nobel laureate physicist Eugene Wigner shared that our consciousness is at its basis made up of a fundamental energy, and our consciousness and our thoughts can actually affect matter. So when our consciousness vibrates with peace and love and coherence, or with excitement about new ideas, it creates ripples of high vibration throughout the underlying unbounded field of consciousness. And these ripples influence the entire creation, including the consciousness of others. It's science. And Humanity's team provides us with wisdom from dozens of the world's greatest transformational leaders that not only spark in us the desire to adopt behaviors that raise consciousness, behaviors like gratitude and intentioning for others, like we learned from Lynn McTaggart, author of The Intention Experiment, who is another one of the Humanities team contributors, behaviors like meditating and using our breath, and chanting and drumming and dancing and doing yoga, and also how to bring in more prosperity and success, and most of all, being voices for conscious living. And you know what else? As fantastic as it may seem, cutting edge research published in highly reputable peer-reviewed journals has repeatedly shown that when a sufficiently large group of people come together, like today, or during Global Oneness Week, or Humanities Team Masterclasses, or our live event that we had last year in Colorado, the Sacred Awakening Live. I hope we do it again because it was amazing. But when a sufficiently large group of people has a collective experience of positivity or peace or excitement, it produces a measurable shift in the collective consciousness of the world. There have been documented studies here in the US based on FBI crime statistics and other measures that when groups of people are gathered for good, significant reductions in crime have been measured, as well as reductions in violence and wars and accidents and hospitalizations. It's the critical mass that I've heard Steve and Neil speak about. So all of this has taken place, as well as increases in peace and wellness, even increases in the stock market when a sufficient number of people come together. There is literally nothing that coming together doesn't influence in a positive manner. In fact, this phenomenon is actually one of the most thoroughly documented social science phenomena in history. And the data is very reliable. The probability of these results happening by chance is less than 5%. So that brings me back to here and now. personally, I feel so grateful for even having the opportunity to be a part of a team with such a wide reaching potential for good. Being part of humanity's team is a gift to yourself. This is the season of gift giving. Being a part of humanity's team is a gift to yourself. It's a chance to gain good karma by contributing to the upliftment of the world. So I invite you to take advantage of this opportunity in front of you to support us, to join us. Humanities Team Capital Raising Campaign, raising capital to raise consciousness. Steve talked about being called to something, and I hope that you are called to help our efforts to raise capital, to create a new world, to create a better future for all of humanity. As Steve often says, I quote from you a lot, Steve. As Steve often says, we are all just one decision away from changing humanity's future. And as Neil, I heard the question many years ago from God, who will be on humanity's team? Maybe he even talked about it today. As I said, I came on a little late, but he heard that question, who will be on humanity's team? And I personally hope that the answer is all of you, because we're in this thing together and you can be a part of our initiative. And when you donate, you can be a part of humanity's team. And hey, it's up to us. And it has to be not done someday, but now. And we can do it with your help. So thank you so much, Steve, everybody on Humanities Team, for inviting me. It's an honor. And to everybody else, welcome to the team.
Beautiful. Wow, Deborah. So isn't she amazing? I told you she was amazing coming on. And all of these leaders, isn't this extraordinary? Wow, I am having such a blast just listening to these extraordinary leaders, one after the other after the other. Deborah, thank you. Wow, we are just one decision away, and it's happening now. You know, we are at a turning point, right? We are the turning point right now. So the news is not reporting this, but it's happening, and how and why? Because of you all, right? It's not just our little humanities team organization. It's all of you, you know, who are living it, and that make it, I'll call it contagious, where people are like, wow, how do you become, you know, that Deborah or Jan or Yosi, or, you know, we could go around. People feel this flourishing, they feel this flow state, and they want it, right? And that's how it's spreading. So it's happening, and thank you so much, Deborah. Boy, really wonderful that you're joining us today. Happy holiday season to you. And so we're going to Ross Hostetter now, who is he's a dear member of our team. He's an attorney, mediator, and visionary leader with decades of experience guiding individuals and organizations through ethical innovation, conscious leadership, and systems transformation. He's known for blending legal expertise with deep spiritual insight to help create structures that are both practical and soul aligned. Ross also serves as a trusted advisor to Humanities Team, where he supports mission-driven growth and aligned leadership. And great to have you here with us, Ross.
Well, thank you, Steve. Hey, since we are live, I just want to say it is 11:15 my time. We said that we wanted to take some questions and things like that. So I have a few things to share. Maybe we'll do that and then open it up.
Yeah, share from the heart. We don't want to stop you out because you've got an important voice here, Ross.
So thank you, Steve, for inviting me on this call. And these calls are I always receive them as a gathering of friends. That's really what we are. We're just getting together here as friends and sharing our energy and our experience with each other. I know that for a lot of you have been on this consciousness journey for a while. I have. I'll have to report out it's been almost a half a century now since I had an awakening when I was 22 years old. It's been a good long time. And throughout that entire time, there's been a promise of this work. And the promise is that a new dawn is, a new sun is coming up in the eastern sky. There's some sort of a new age that's about to happen in the human experience, a new axial age that's about to emerge on Earth. And we all are groaning for it. The Earth itself is groaning for it. The groaning for this awakening, for humanity to take this turn, and for some sort of a key to get put into the ignition to turn a different engine on so that we can live into the potential that we know is possible, this potential of a loving planet, to become a planetary species, to be able to get out of all of this violence and chaos and everything that we see every day. And so for the last 50 years, I've been looking for a turning tool. Like, what is it? You know, is it going to be meditation, somebody's 3, 5, 7, 9-step system? Is it going to be a philosophy? Is it going to be a group, a teacher, a guru, whatever? So I was asking that question once again in meditation a few days back, and I got the clearest answer. And the clearest answer or statement was, you are the way. You are the tool. Don't you get that yet? Like, that's the most fundamental thing. You know, you are the tool that is being designed for this awakening and to play your part in it. And I want to welcome you to the Mission of Humanities team, because in a nutshell, that's it. Okay. It's an organization that says you are the tool, that we are all fractals of this greater whole, and all of us have a role to play in it. So we talk about consciousness a lot. And I want to give you all a visual metaphor for it. I'm just going to hold up my hand here. Let's see if I can get it in the middle of the screen. So you notice I've got 4 fingers on my hand, right? And these are really, really useful things to have, as we know. And if they're so useful, why don't we just have another one, okay? Or just like a 5th one just sitting here. Well, it turns out that this hand is a lot more useful if we have this little digit down here called the thumb. And it's an awkward little thing. We even have a social metaphor saying we're all thumbs, okay? We're all thumbs. We can't do anything. But the thumb has the ability to meet all of these fingers, okay? It has the ability to meet them, and it has the ability to grasp onto things. And so as a visual metaphor, consciousness is the thumb. It's what we use to meet ourselves, to meet our partners, to meet our loved ones, to meet our children, to meet our colleagues, to meet the environment, to meet the political system, the capitalistic system. It is what engages with the world. And as that consciousness grows in capacities, it has the ability to change what it meets. So just as a little individual experiment, we all know that consciousness has this self-reflexive quality, and so it can see itself. So consciousness can meet yourself, okay? And it can take, as we all have gone through, you can take an individual that is just full of biological drives and full of social conditioning, living in a house of stories, sleepwalking through this life, you know, watching the ball game, whatever we're doing. And it can turn that into a higher self that is more morally conscious, that is aware of its effects in the world, that becomes more trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, all of the great things that a higher self can be. And once it then begins to live out of that higher self, it has an opportunity for yet another self to emerge, which is a self that has a soul mission in the world. We realize that we're a soul moving through this life for many lifetimes that can engage in a large mission. And all the speakers on the call here and all of us here, we're engaging in a soul mission. We kind of at least got to that level that we're here to do something. And then even up above that we begin to realize that we are a fractal of the divine, just like Neil was talking about at the top of the call. We're a piece of divinity, and that we can begin to emanate the creative power of love in what we do every day. And so consciousness is, and Steve will say it's the first cause. It's the first cure. Okay. So working on this is a really important thing. And that's what Humanities Team is all about, is to basically give people and in every person in the world, in every language of the world, the resources, the training, the education, the contact with people, the events, the practices, anything that you would want to begin to raise the vibration, raise the intellect, raise the qualities of that consciousness. And so the team works really, really hard on this to try to do it in every conceivable way. We've talked about a Stream Plus. So maybe you want to hang out with people like Debra or Neil or Steve or even me. You just go to Stream Plus and you can begin to feel their vibrational state. You can begin to hang out with them. You can begin to be with them. Maybe you need to learn some a tradition that's there. Maybe you need to learn to meditate. You need to have practical tools and everything to equip your journey. So it's designed to be a library where these tools and people and energies are available. And that's only just one small part of what's happening. With a small amount of resources, as Debra said, we just this last year we put on a seminar with 150 people live, with about 3 times that coming in virtually, and it was an incredible gathering of people. We took testimonials at the end about how impactful it was with everybody and how they felt better and energized and cleaned and ready to go out in the world. And that's one thing. We put out practice challenges that thousands of people begin to practice together. Steve has put out a book. It's really Humanities Team's book. All proceeds go to Humanities Team. The team helps create the book and market it and everything. It's a gorgeous book. That it starts with the call, that we all have, and then works through all these different things in life, our finances, our relationships, our mission here, and that. And that's another thing that gets done. And of course, we're talking about master classes and AI, and I won't go through all of it. But the idea is that why should we be doing this at all? Okay, why should we be doing this at all? And why should you give to an organization that does this kind of stuff? And the short answer is it's just hard to do it alone. Okay. It's hard to put on a seminar that 150 people attend. You can try. It's hard to write a book yourself. I've done that. It's hard to engage 250,000 people in a 3-day seminar. So we can do things together that we cannot do alone. When we can join together in these hands, we can do things that we cannot do alone. So that's the reason to start an organization. That's the reason to start a team, and that's the reason to be on a team. And I am here to ask you for your help. Just like any other household, Humanities Team has a budget. It needs revenues to pay people. It does, just as Yosi said, so much with a tiny amount of money. I'm on other nonprofit boards and I'm an advisor of other nonprofits. It does more with its like a $1.2 million budget than most organizations do with a $12 million budget. And that is a fact. It really does outperform, way up above its weight class. But it still relies on about 40% of its budget from contributions from people. It's a nonprofit. It needs contributions from people to do it. And if we can do it today, I would love to wrap up this 100,000 challenge that we have. Just by the way, Steve put the money in. As he has all, and we are at $71,433 towards meeting that challenge right now. That's how much we've raised. So we've got about another $28,000 or so to go. And if we can match that challenge, we'll get to $57,000 that comes into the organization by the end of the year, and we sure could use it. I'll just leave it with that. So one of the low-hanging fruit is just to do that and get that done this year. And I'll just close by saying, riffing on a little bit what Yosi said about the joy of giving. We had one of our largest donors at a meeting at Steve's house earlier in the year, a little dinner that we put on for donors. And he got up and cried. This is a kind of a roughneck type guy. Cried with what it meant to him to pledge his entire estate, his fortune, to Humanities Team ultimately. Okay, that gave his life meaning and purpose and a reason. He could see something way out beyond his day-to-day life that he could accomplish with all the efforts that he has made in his lifetime. So I want to encourage you to share that feeling and give generously if you can. That's where I'm going to close up, Steve. Thanks.
Russ, that was really beautiful. Thank you. Wow. Extraordinary. Thank you.
Yeah, Deborah's waving at me.
There's a reason you're going last, and a shout out to my cousin Nancy, who's who I see here. I didn't know she was a cousin when I started working with Nancy. And I came to find out she's a cousin, and she had an org chart with my whole family in it in her home. Wow, that was a God job for sure. Okay, so I know we're actually now at 90 minutes, so some of you need to leave. There are many people that have actually made videos of how they've been personally impacted by Humanities Team. We've gone over. Some of you need to leave right now. So we did pick one of these videos that I thought we'd go ahead and play. It's a guy named Todd Kramer, who's an extraordinary guy who talks about just how Humanities Team have impacted him and his life. For those that can stick around, let's go ahead and play it. And then Ross and I'll go ahead and close it out here and right after that. So here we go.
So the way I found Humanities Team, the way I found HT was it was truly divine synchronicity. There was some serendipity going on that I had no clue of at the time. But it all started with a combat tour to Iraq. And I was super confused after 9/11, but I had this huge urge to go witness Iraq. I don't know why. I mean, it was really, really confusing to me. I was just being pulled to go over there. And then later it was explained to me by an HT member, Debbie Spitzowski, that I had to go over there to witness all that. I had to go over there to bring home a timeless truth that war is never the answer to any question. Let me repeat that. It's never the answer to any question. And I guess I just had to experience that. So I did. And war is hell. It's messy. But what I remember one day is I was sitting in a secure camp outside of Baghdad. And in this day room was Conversations with God, book 1. And I asked everybody in there if anybody knew whose it was. Nobody could claim it. And I started reading it. And I'll be quite honest with you, at first it was confusing to me. I didn't connect with any of it, but I had this weird knowing that I needed to. It reminds me of Neil talking about journaling some of that, how frustrated he got. And I remember reading it and again being frustrated. So, but the seed was planted. And it was a very messy tour. So we didn't all come home. And I went over there. I battled with the disease of alcoholism, a family disease of alcoholism all my life. And I went over to Iraq with about 11 years sobriety. And then when I came home, it was textbook. Everything fell apart. The wife left, the dad died. And life got really dark for a while. And I'll just tell you, I just wanted to die. I just wanted to die. And that was my attempt. So after my suicide attempt, I was able to get healthy. And that's when I started looking for volunteer work. And I was actually really deep into Dr. Wayne Dyer and some lectures. And in one of those lectures, he mentioned Neil Donald Walsh. And that flickered a light in my head. And I reread book 1 and then the other books, and You Got Me All Wrong. And somewhere in all that, I found a website for Neil. And somewhere in all that, I found a job posting for humanities team. I wasn't working at the time. The VA was taking care of me 100%, and I had the opportunity. They were paying me a little stipend, and I had the opportunity to volunteer. And that's when, so it all just kind of fell into place. And then that's when I was interviewed by Nanette Kennedy and Dee Meyer, and we all just kind of fell in love with each other immediately. And the next thing you know, I was the worldwide operations coordinator for humanities team. It totally turned my world around, because sitting in war, what you have to understand is that's where I saw it. That's where I really saw it. When I looked into the eyes of these Iraqi children, I figured out really quick that those were the eyes of our own. And even though this was a third world war-torn country, these children were so happy, right? 7 billion people on the planet, and we all want one thing: to be loved. And that's where I seen it. That's where I grasped this concept of oneness. And then when I brought that and connected with HT, everything just fell into place. It all made sense to me. And my life truly, truly changed. I met these wonderful people. This declaration of oneness that we have alone is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. You know, people, and I really started getting into mysticism and divine channeling from that. And HT introduced me to Carrie Beach, and then Carrie Beach introduced me to Mary Reed, and now Mary Reed I work with on a weekly basis in a worldwide satsang, just talking about this oneness. So it all really came together. And then I knew I had to spread this message to the veteran community. So that's what I did. I found the Veterans Treatment Court, where these struggling veterans are caught up in the judicial system, and I've carried the spirit of HT into everything I've done from that point. We're all still close, and we talk often, and but it wouldn't have ever been possible. My recovery would have never been possible. What I do today wouldn't be possible. I'm working right now with Tim No on gifting veterans free humanities stream subscriptions, and that warmed my heart when HT reached out, and I fed him several names off the bat, and I'm still preaching it from the highest soapbox I can find. So thank you, humanities team. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Steve. I just can't thank you enough for turning my life around, and thank you, Neil, and just everybody at humanities team. I love you so much, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be sitting where I'm at today without you loving me. I came into HT feeling like a warmonger, and HT coddled me and loved me, and let me know that wasn't true. And HT showed me how to take a very unfortunate incident and turn it into helping other veterans. That's the true nature of oneness. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, wow. So very moving, and that's an understatement. Todd, of course, as you can see, what a beautiful person, and doing incredible work. He still lives near us in Denver, not far from where many of us are based here in humanities team. So Todd, thank you for that. And we again have gone over. Ross, I think we're right at the end here. Yeah, I just want to thank you all. You know, it's the holiday season. We've gone a little over 90 minutes. Thanks for gathering. Leaders, thanks for coming in and speaking. Viewers, you know, Ross said it, right? How's it going to happen? You. You. That's how it's going to happen. That's why you're here. You. You are the person that's walking this, that's living it in your home, walking it into the workplace, taking it out into the world. They're grocery store clerks, you know, or any retail store. These people are stressed, you can see, you know, and you're the one with the smile, you know, you're the divine expression, the divine light that's walked into that retail location that is that can make somebody's day, turn it all around. Todd shared how life can turn around in a massively huge way, but as you know, we can turn around lives in smaller ways in retail and where we're just out in the world, and people are stressed, neighbors are stressed. So carry it with you. We are one decision away. I'm going to say we're in that one decision now. We're in the turning point now, and so let's live it. Contribute if you deeply resonate with our work. We are all my wife and I are big financial contributors. We believe maybe we even came into this life to do this work, and I think my partners and colleagues in Humanities Team, I think, feel the same way. So we're all on Humanities Team. We even have business cards that say, I'm a member of Humanities Team. So join us in person somewhere, and we'll give you a card. And you're a card carrying member now. Go out in the world, with in God's light, and let's create bigger and bigger and bigger ripples of impact, because it is our time. We all know it, right? It's not tomorrow; it's today. I love that. Someday, your least favorite day. Someday, Debra, I'm with you. Not Sunday. Today. Okay, love and peace and blessings, everybody, and thank you. Thanks so much for being here. Mwah. What an extraordinary program.